Everyone, and welcome. There we go. Phew! The movie stopped and I was, of course, frozen. So hello, everyone.
Hello.
It is going to be one of those days. So I'm Vivica Von Rosen. I'm back. Yay, kind of, slightly back. With me today, I have Stan Robinson, who is our master coach over at Vengresso. And we have special guest Steve Benson. And
Hey. Looks like me talking froze her.
Yeah. Yes, we'll see how that works.
I'm kind of back, and then I got kicked off. So I'm having some technical difficulties, but I think Stan and Steve, you can carry on without me, even if I end up getting kicked off. So hello, everyone. It is good to be back. I'm in bed still, so this might be a new thing. I don't know, LinkedIn Live in bed. So.
Yeah, that is quite a headboard right there. I mean,
I know, right? Join me in bed with LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, right now we're trending.
Exactly. Hashtag LinkedIn threesome. Yeah. All right. I better get. So let's say a quick hello to people who are on right now. Hello to Paul. Yes, thank you. Hello, Aijaz. Did I pronounce your name correctly? I'm excellent. It's good to have SEO experts. Miss Mimi, welcome back, and thank you. It's good to be here. And we've got Bernie monitoring our feeds as well, and our good friend Adam, who has been a LinkedIn Live guest in the past. So before I get kicked off again, I want to introduce to you our special guest, which is Steve Benson. He's CEO of Badger Maps, which is just interesting in and of itself. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit, because what Badger Maps does is it's probably the best software out there for field reps for planning multi-stop routes, which during COVID, Steve, there's just so much here that we can talk about. You also have a podcast called The Outside Sales Talk, which I have been on before. So
That's
I'm,
right.
yeah, I'm excited to have you. Well, I'm excited to be back with you and also to have you on today's talk. So, like, my first question to you has got to be, your whole business plan is based on, helping field reps in the field. And we don't have so much the field anymore. So how do you and how do other business owners and sales leaders, what do we do? What do we do? What do our sales reps do? I mean, there you go. Now you can talk for the next half hour.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, so I'm always talking with VPs of sales and people that lead teams and the actual field salespeople throughout the COVID crisis, and obviously a lot of their way of going to market was shut down for a while. So we had a lot of our customers shut down their operations, and we can see, through their activity in the application, who's using it and who's not. And about half of the people were just completely not using it at all. Now that has largely come back. I'd say it's down. We might have been down 60% at the lowest in like the middle of April or something. And now I think we're probably down about 20% from where we would have been in like a February or something. So massive change. Some people even straight through the crisis weren't really affected. They were still going out because sales is such a broad thing, right? Like if you're there are a lot of people who they need to still go to the factory and show the people the parts for replacing the pieces to their machines, for example, like because if you don't have those parts, the whole factory stops. And so they were doing that in a distanced way, et cetera. I guess in some states not so distanced, but depending on where you're at. But yeah, now I think a lot of people are back out in the field and selling, and they're just, I think they're just using a different set of practices than they were before. And I think it certainly disrupted their business. They tried to or have replaced, in some cases, some of those meetings with Zoom. I think it's really hard for people to get the same kind of connection when you're not knee to knee and face to face with someone than you can in those situations. So I think most people who were selling with field sales, it's because that's the best way to sell it. If they could have just opened up a retail store, they would have already done that. If they could have just sold it on Amazon, they would have done that. It's harder and more expensive to go out in the field, but it actually makes a lot of sense that people do this because it shortens sales cycles, deepens relationships, and I think field sales is effectively back right now. We'll see if restrictions come back into place and close things down again.
That's really good to hear that that I would not have thought the numbers were that good. So that's actually really, really good news. And the fact that you can actually measure the activity of your field sales and that you are seeing that kind of resurgence of activity, that's better numbers than I thought.
Well, I mean, for a lot of our customers, they sell things like medical devices, or they're in pharmaceutical sales. Like these things haven't changed. Like if you're a doctor buying a new medical device or replenishing your supplies of something, you still, or talking to a drug rep to learn about a new drug, you all that activity is still occurring, right? And really never stopped. But certain areas are just it's really economics driven, right? Like the people that sold beer to bars, they're not out selling right now. And so it's companies, there are certain companies. I was just talking to a guy who sells glassware to hotels, and their company's literally just going under right now because hotels aren't breaking glasses and therefore buying new glasses.
This is true.
So the party scene in the hotels is lower. I'm like, oh, it's so close to coming back though. We'll be breaking glasses again soon.
Exactly. So what I mean, there are obviously a bunch of new challenges that sales leaders need to overcome. Um, and so what are some things that maybe people hadn't thought about before, now that we've got this bad economy? What are things that maybe, what are some new challenges that sales managers might not have thought of before, and what has, you know, what are kind of some new solutions that are coming out of what's going on?
Well, yeah, I think it is a shifted landscape for a lot of businesses and salespeople. I think the first major change that they're seeing out there is desperate competitors doing desperate things.
Mm,
So a lot of companies, top lines and bottom lines, are really hurting right now, and they're willing to do
yeah,
things that they would never have done before. Liquidating inventory to make ends meet,
yeah,
giving away free consulting or other free forms of value, or at a very
yeah,
low cost, trying to steal your customers away from you. Deep discounting, of course,
yeah,
to liquidate that inventory and get money flowing and keep the paychecks coming and keep the business afloat. Second, shifting landscape of your customers. New challenges coming from
yeah,
prospects, not engaging, new resistance to customers buying and even meeting with you, engaging with you,
Sure.
not wanting to engage in a sales cycle, not wanting to meet in person when that's really the only way to sell the thing you sell,
yeah,
is a thing that we're running into with, or seeing our customers run into. Just um, if someone didn't want to meet with you before and you kind of
yeah,
needed to push the door open, now they
yeah,
have the best
exactly,
excuse ever, right? And
exactly,
and people have a resistance to spending money, right? And I've seen
yeah,
this. Yeah, I've seen this in my own company. Like, a business, a leader of one of the business units they're very timid coming to me and being like, we want to invest in this thing. We want to buy this. We know it's a bad economy. So, there's often spending freezes from the top down, right? And I think
yeah,
there's a not only are people, when people go and ask the people with the purse strings for money, there's also the procurement offices at a lot of
yeah,
companies. Now they have a great reason to just wring more money out of your reps that you try to get deeper discounts, get better terms,
yeah.
generally
Oh, that's right.
jam down your margins. And I think that's a thing we're seeing a lot, is compressed margins.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's a really good point because, like, there's a lot of salespeople who already, that's kind of how they sold was, okay, discount, deeper discount, discount
Exactly
until,
right.
like, the person you're basically going, just, we'll give it to you we'll pay you to take our stuff, right? And so, um,
You
in
can't.
the best of times, we probably need to do some negotiation training with our sales team. And I will fully admit being one of those people. Like, I can I can help you all day long, but when we come to negotiating, that's definitely when you need to talk to Kurt or someone on our sales team, because
Mhm.
I'm not the best at negotiating for sure. And so, what can we do other than that negotiating? Good, easy for me to say. What can we do other than that negotiation training to combat what's going on here?
Yeah, in terms of the margins compressing,
Yeah,
you can directly take action. I think, you know, if you have a product with tightening margins, or if you need to defend those margins, and this is one of those
yeah,
times, and I think, negotiation training is a great place to start for your reps. If your reps are currently comped on revenue, you can
yeah.
also consider switching to a comp plan that is based on profit margin. And I think that's a good way to kind of incentivize from the top down, that kind of a shifting in mindset around that, what you were describing there, around people just allowing the margins to slip and giving discounts. And like, think about the math behind that. The if you if if your margins, your normal profit margins were 30% in January of this year, and your rep gave a 15% discount, you actually, the margins were solidly at 30%. And now today your reps feel like they have to do a 15% discount to get the same deal done. You basically need 2 deals for every one to get the same, to maintain your same profit. And if your rep comped on revenue, that 15% discount only cost him 15% of his or her commission. But if they're aligned to profit, then now it costs them half their commission. So they'll defend the margins better if you align your comp plans to the profit line instead of to the revenue line. And obviously you're going to get pushback on that. It's, no reps aren't going to love that one, but I think I think that if you design a comp plan that is aligned with your business, you're gonna do better. And that's how comp plans in tight margin industries have been for a while. And basically some managers who have always been sitting on fat margins are scratching their heads and saying, wow, this is really not working very well. What do I do? And it's like, well, look to tighter margin businesses and see how they've been running for a long time. And make that switch.
Yeah, that's actually, an excellent point. And the salespeople watching this are like, no,
but in the end, it's better if your business stays afloat.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the last thing you want to do is work twice as hard, or to get twice as many deals to make the same income when it's harder to sell than it's ever been.
It's harder to get the one deal. So you definitely don't want to have to get 2. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So protecting those margins, that's some really good feedback. So sales leaders, if you're listening, think about that. What else do sales leaders need to do? They're obviously a lot of shift has to happen right now. So what do they need to shift in their behavior to keep that revenue going? What else can sales leaders be doing?
Great question. An economic crisis is probably the hardest time to be a sales leader because the whole company depends on the revenue that your team is producing in order to survive, right? So sales leaders need to be truly great now more than ever in a time of crisis. So, I mean, I guess, what do they have to change? What do they have to do differently? I guess they need to be really action oriented. They need to confront reality. They need to be honest, and they have to reassess the organization and how money is moving through it, and how they're going about things, and figure out what their challenges are. And you have to be more responsive. I think you have to coach and support your sales reps more. The sales reps are scared. They're worried about their jobs. The PPP loan has run out for most companies at this point, and reps need commissions, right? They need stuff to sell. They need, and a lot of people's sales numbers are down, and those the base checks don't pay people's mortgages, right? So, you need more. I think more coaching and more training than ever before. And there's, it's easy as a leader. And this isn't just true for sales leaders, but any kind of business leaders. You're kind of locked in your guest bedroom right now, on the phone and on Zoom meetings all the time. It's easy to feel removed from the situation and to go silent. But I think you really need to talk with your reps and find out what's going on with deals, where the rubber meets the road. And I would encourage CEOs to do the same thing. Talk to your reps right now. How has the market shifted? It's almost like you want to. It's like you want to go into startup mode almost, where you're kind of evaluating, okay, what's the product market fit today? Who is our ideal customer today? Has this shifted? I was selling beer to bars, but now could I create beer delivery programs to big apartment buildings or something? How can I shift?
How can I turn tequila into hand sanitizer? Right?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, I swear though, the last time I was at Sprouts, right, I did my little hand sanitizer, and I'm like, that's full on tequila. Like, I could take a shot of that, right? I mean, it didn't even smell like it was full on tequila. All I needed was a little salt and a little lime. That's all I'm saying.
Don't waste the tequila. We need that more than ever.
Don't drink your hand sanitizer. I'm not promoting drinking of hand sanitizer. Yeah, but no, there's definitely some, I mean, Vengressa, we've definitely done some pivoting. I'm assuming at Badger Maps, you've done some pivoting as
Mhm.
well. So, and
Absolutely.
like what you said, it's almost like, we're startups again. We have to, how can we lean this down? Like, how can we be just in time? How can we start learning how to sell virtually? Because a lot of, I mean, that's what we do, right? At Vengresso is we teach salespeople how to have conversations, with their connections online and take it to the phone. And hey, if you can take it to a real live meeting, excellent. But if not, there's all these other options out there like Zoom, etc. So, what are some other things that reps need coaching in? Because that they're probably floundering and afraid, and it's not just one thing. There's no golden ticket, one thing that's going to make everything better. So what are some different areas that you think sales leaders should bring in coaching for their reps?
Well, I think it's really important to up level your team's skills in
Yeah.
tough times. They likely need need to sharpen some skills or get to
Yeah.
develop some new skill sets to approach some the different world in which they're living in a different way. We're in an adjustment phase with the
Yeah.
economy. I think managers should be spending half of their time coaching their team. I think they should be bringing
Mhm.
in experts to help their team through this time and help
Yeah.
through this transition. Um, and it's getting back to basics, but in relearning the world in the new world. So things like
Yeah.
pre-call strategizing,
Yeah.
post-call debriefing, doing ride-alongs or joint calls with your team, which is easy if you're just joining a Zoom meeting, right?
Right.
Coaching them on each individual opportunity, and also so you can learn how are things shifting, and you can share the best practices around how things are shifting with the rest of the team. Um, your salespeople are like water; they'll fill all the cracks and figure it flows to where the money is, right? And so if you
Yeah.
see, oh, this rep's still being successful, figure out what that rep is doing and have that rep teach the rest of the team. And because if they figure something out, replicate their success across the team.
I love
Um,
that.
Negotiation training. Everybody needs that right now. I mean, everyone's margins are getting squeezed, and everyone could use a little freshen up on that, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stan, I see that you're actually taking excellent notes here in private chat. Go ahead and just pop those into comments, and then I can
The,
elevate them because
the challenge is I can't access the live comments.
oh, okay, that's
So,
weird.
yeah, and
All right, that would be
so
a problem then.
that's the reason I'm doing it. Although it does say that they're visible to guests. So let me check with Bernie. Ask
Okay, yeah,
Bernie if he's
maybe.
seen the comments.
And I can oops, I just did the wrong thing in the wrong place. Okay, sorry. I'll work on this in the background. So Steve, yeah, that's a really good point. And it's just up leveling our teams right now, making sure they're trained up on what needs to be done. Now, one of the things that we've noticed is, by the nature of what we do, which is virtual sales training, we're getting a lot more inbound traffic. And so what can sales leaders do to take advantage of prospects who might be picking up the phone more or more open to new ideas in this economy? What should sales leaders be doing? How can we take advantage of those situations?
It's so funny you should bring this up because I was just in a conversation with some people on my sales team about this. People are actually and have been picking up the phone throughout this period, and I think it's a great time to rethink the structure of your sales team as a result, and hear me out on this the connection. So, a lot of sales teams are made up of reps, hunter reps who
Yeah.
prospect, find leads, work the sales cycle, close the deal, and then manage the customer relationship going forward. It's their customer.
Yeah.
And in the software industry, we do things in a slightly different way as kind of the norm. And what we do is we break up lead generating time and have individual people focus just on that. And then when a lead is generated, that lead will be passed to the sales rep who will work the deal, close the deal, and then that sales rep will pass that responsibility on to what we call a customer success rep, who's in charge of the success of the customer, usage of the product going forward, setup, management. If it was a factory, it would be swinging by and making sure the machine that you sold them is working. But a lot of other industries aren't using that structure. If they had 100 people, they're just all doing everything. And I would suggest if you had 100 people on your sales team, if you had 20 of them or 15 or 20 of them generating leads and 60 of them closing the deals and 15 or 20 of them and managing the customer relationships going forward, it would be a lot more efficient. You'd get a lot more done by restructuring that, and you'd be able to take advantage of people answering the phone more if you had a whole team kind of focused on that. And if you don't break it up, you kind of tend to see reps over focusing their time on existing customers where there's maybe not as much money and it could have been done more efficiently because customers are demanding. And so they don't work as many sales cycles. And I forget what the stat is. It's something crazy, like 50% of reps almost never prospect. They just get like the passive leads coming in.
Yes.
So that is a way that I would consider a move I would consider making right now in this time.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting you should say that. My husband is also in sales, and his company's really seeing the ones that have just kind of been riding the gravy train. It's been renewals and inbound leads, and they've got their BDRs doing all the qualifications, and it's a lot harder now. It's he's you would think it would be obvious that you should be making phone calls, especially right now. And I'm not a fan. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of cold calling. I believe warming it up through online connections and relationships using LinkedIn. But nonetheless, you got to pick up the phone, and it is amazing to me. And our sales team is being retrained as well. It is amazing to me how many sales reps don't pick up the phone. Like, well, I sent him an email. Okay. And then did you follow up with a phone call? Well, I sent him another email 2.5 weeks ago. Okay. Well, it's not enough. And Daniel asked a really good question. Like, things are really bad right now and probably going to get worse. So how do we go from here? How do we move forward? What are some, and I noticed we only have 4 minutes left. So in the final 4 minutes, I have a lot more questions for you, but in the final 4 minutes, what can people really do above and beyond what you've already mentioned to shift this curve?
I think we've been in a time where the last, I don't know, 8 years, decade, I'm not even sure. So for as long as people can remember, for a lot of people, I hardly remember what happened last week, but
right.
especially at this point. But I think we've been in some fat, happy times, right? The last, the economy's been doing really well. And I think that people have to recognize that there's been a shift in a lot of cases. And, we have to work twice as hard and twice as smart and just roll up our sleeves and get things done, because the locusts have come and eaten all of our crops. And so, we got to go out into the fields and squish their little heads and eat the locusts.
There's a visual that I don't want to end on.
I just made that up on the spot. It sounded so much better in my head.
Let's live and die here, shall we?
Oh, gosh.
Well, awesome. Well, you've been so full of information. We've only got a couple minutes left. What do you want people to know about you? What do you want people to know about badger mapping. I'm going to throw up some links here so people can follow you. But what are some final words you want to leave people with that don't have to do with squishing grasshoppers?
Squishing grasshoppers in your hands and eating them.
I don't know who's on the good pain meds right now, but I don't think it's just me.
Yeah. So, but if you're in field sales or have a field sales team, definitely check out the things that Badger Maps does. It's a suite of tools for field salespeople, and really helps people be a lot more efficient in their field sales roles. In terms of getting in touch with me, LinkedIn's a great way to do that. Although my LinkedIn inbox is a little bit of a nightmare right now, but yeah, I've got a podcast specifically for field salespeople called Outside Sales Talk, and it's I spend a lot of time on that. That's one of my main ways of like communicating with the world. But yeah, I mean, probably LinkedIn or the podcast are the best ways to like meet, get in touch with me or learn more about what I'm up to.
Perfect. And I'm just, Outside Sales Talk. I can't type and talk and listen at the same time. Here we go. And I'll get the link to that too. And we'll go ahead. You can, of course, Google it right now, everybody. But it is really good. Yeah. Not just because I was a guest on it once, but.
Well, that's the best episode we ever had.
Absolutely, for sure. No, it's a really good podcast. I mean, because let's face it, we have a little bit more time. Some of us have a little bit more time right now. And so, doing podcasts while you're out brushing up all the grasshoppers and doing things like that.
You got to keep your mind busy.
You got to keep your mind busy. I mean, definitely better be listening to podcasts than, going through several series on Netflix. And I speak from the truth right here and from knowledge and from experience. So I want to thank you so much, Steve, for being on the show today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll definitely have you back on again. And I think it's really important that people understand there's still hope, right? It's like you started out with some positive numbers. The field reps were much more active than I thought they would be right now. And so, there is hope. We've got a future. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and being on our podcast, being on our LinkedIn Live, which is also on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube right now. And thank you, Stan. You didn't have to jump in too much, but I'm glad that you were here just in case. Especially at the very beginning. All right. Yeah. And as our last LinkedIn person said, the phone is so underrated. You can do more than take selfies with these things, guys. You can actually use it to talk to people. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. And I may or may not still be in bed. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you later.